I do want to make sure that I kind of communicate where I stand clearly before I get into all the wrinkles of the conversation, okay? Because I would like you to understand where I stand, okay? Anthony Richardson not starting for the Indianapolis Colts, make no mistake about it, there's no two ways to view this, is it's absolutely devastating, right? Like, not just to us as fans, like that, obviously, but to the organization, to Shane Steichen, to Chris Ballard. Like, there's no way to work around the fact that this was not the preferred outcome for the Indianapolis Colts, right? And just like you, I wanted Anthony Richardson to start, right? Like, I would have started Anthony Richardson. If the answer you were looking for was to get clarity on where you stand long term as an organization, starting Anthony Richardson in that scenario was absolutely the best move. Okay? Assuming, of course, that was your goal. And number two, I, much like you, right? There would be no reason for me to be behind this microphone, even having this discussion in such depth, if I was not a diehard Colts fan, just like you, right? Like that's who we are. Okay? And I understand that as Colts fans, when it comes to the quarterback position, and those of you who have been here before, you know where I'm going. You could say it with me. For those of you who have not, you're going to have no option but to agree when I say it. As Colts fans, when it comes to the quarterback position, we have suffered. Hear me when I speak. We have suffered when it comes to the quarterback position, okay? We all agree on that. But now's where you're trapped. Now's where I'm about to give you a spoonful of your medicine, right? Because if you agree with me on that, you would also have to acknowledge that when you're in an emotional state right now, right? Because we yearn for a quarterback like most fan bases couldn't even possibly understand. Like, the greatness that we have seen has given us a taste of whatever it is that, I'm not even going to get into the whole bit. We have seen greatness at the quarterback position in Indianapolis, right? It makes us as fans of this team want it even more than teams who have never experienced it before. And because of that, it skews the filter that we are judging this quarterback battle through. What many fans have done up to this point, they've idolized, they've supported Anthony Richardson to a point where they can't even, what would be the way to describe it? They absolve him of all responsibility when it comes to his hand in what it is that is going on in here. Because one thing I refuse to do, you could say whatever you want about the way the Colts have handled this thing up to this point. I refuse to view Anthony Richardson as some sort of martyr in this story and in this saga that has been his career up to this point. Okay? Steichen is getting a whole bunch of blowback for this decision. And not for anything. I mean, what exactly did you want him to do? And now, listen, if he deserves blame for anything, right? Because Steichen's going to get blowback for things like the development of Anthony Richardson and the decision to bench him last year and the decision to bench him this year for Daniel Jones, right? All of those things, I will make my point very clear on those. If Shane Steichen deserves blame for anything, it's having a hand in drafting Anthony Richardson. Okay, that I'll absolutely give you. Like, Richardson did not draft himself at the number 4 overall pick after having, like, what was it, 13, 14, 15 starts between high school and college. I mean, how many games of pickup basketball, let's say, have you played in your entire life? Some of you saying, dude, I don't play basketball. But some of you guys are saying 50, 100, yeah, 200. Some of you couldn't even possibly produce the number if you thought on it for 20 minutes to an hour, right? Like, you've played that much pickup basketball. Even with all those reps, even with all those jump shots, even with all those layups and defensive, right? The rebounds, everything. Do you at all feel like you would be able to walk on as even the 12th man of a average college basketball team? No, right? So to draft Anthony Richardson, having next to no experience playing quarterback at a high level, on any level, and expecting him to be your franchise quarterback was already a chance to begin with. Now, in fairness, you swing for the fences, and if you miss, you miss. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that just because things haven't worked out, like the Colts have not given him every opportunity they possibly could have to lock this thing down, right? I mean, think about year one. They started him. He gets hurt, right? His throwing shoulder gets surgically repaired. misses the year. He comes back in year two. And can we call a spade now? Can we be honest as Colts fan now? Now that like Daniel Jones is the starter and we don't have to blindly support Richardson all the time, we can actually tell the truth here. Anthony Richardson was awful in year two for the Indianapolis Colts before getting benched for Joe Flacco. Okay. I mean, he not only was not playing well, but while not playing well, left the game on third down under his own volition, as if he had been playing good enough to earn the right to even think about making a decision like that, right? So then he gets benched and then comes back in and then gets hurt again, season ending injury. And then fast forward now to this past offseason, the organization brings in Daniel Jones, who, by the way, was about as I mean, you think for a second that when the Colts bring in Daniel Jones, that their ideal scenario from that is that Daniel Jones is better than the guy that they drafted in the top five. Like, do you think that that's what the Colts wanted to happen? Because I see that case being made by some people, like, oh, this was all a setup or something like that. Like, this is like the Montreal screw job. Like when people say Vince screwed Brett. No, no, no. Make no mistake. Bret Hart screwed Bret Hart, and Anthony Richardson screwed Anthony Richardson because Anthony Richardson, in all fairness, right? And of course, coaching matters and all this type of stuff. If he turned into a great quarterback, if he had been killing it up to this point, we, in the name of player empowerment and in the player of giving the players their due, would make sure that Anthony Richardson received all the possible praise for that. I mean, we were praising him for doing next to nothing at this point. But now that he is not that guy and has not done that, we can't then absolve him of the responsibility, okay? We can't do that. We can't ignore the overwhelming evidence that's been given to us up to this point that he is not equipped to be our guy. Because keep in mind, after all that nonsense, after bringing in Daniel Jones, he comes into OTAs this year, and that surgically repaired shoulder that he got 2 years ago, sore. Now, sure, it ended up being a nothing burger, but in that moment, all of us are like, holy shit, here we go again, right? How could you not feel that way? Of course, and saying this Anthony Richardson thing is over. Well, sure enough, he comes in, plays training camp, we forget it happened, and then boom, goes into that Ravens game and gets speared like some jobber on WCW Monday Night Nitro facing Goldberg. I mean, his helmet almost popped off. His pinky flew off his hand like Mr. Potato Head. Was practically in Cincinnati, Ohio. And once again, as fans, we're sitting there in a situation where it's like, damn, this is just who this guy is. We can't trust him to be healthy, right? We can't trust him to be healthy. And then he misses no practice time. And then a week and a half later, we're pretending like none of that shit happened. And instead, the only reasonable thing to do with your job on the line, in all fairness, is to start a guy, and Anthony Richardson, who once again has done nothing, unfortunately, I take no pride in saying it, has done nothing but prove to you that you probably cannot trust him with this starting job, okay? And again, if you're Shane Steichen, what is it that you want him to do? You know, he says he's doing what he thinks is best for the Indianapolis Colts. And I know what me and you think, right? Because there's a human side to this. And I know you don't give a shit because you're a Colts fan and you just want the success of the team and you don't care about Steichen. You don't care about his family. You don't care about Bell. You don't care about none of that. If the Colts go out there, as long as the Colts make the playoffs, like you could give it to hell with everyone's family and livelihood, right? At a certain point. And in fairness, as fans, we're entitled to that opinion. Okay. But at the same time, if you were Shane Steichen and you know what's on the line this season, how can you possibly put the food that goes on your family's table in the hands of Anthony Richardson? If you were Shane Steichen, right? Forget you, the fan sitting from the couch. If you were Shane Steichen, what would you do? Huh? What would you do if you were in his situation? And I think when you view it from that perspective, you're going to be forced to admit, unless you're being dishonest, that you probably would have made a very similar decision. I mean, maybe some of you wouldn't have, but ultimately, Anthony Richardson just lost this job to Daniel Jones fair and square. That's what happened. They kicked the can down the road as far as they possibly can. Make no mistake about it. They certainly wanted Anthony Richardson to win this job, but they could not justify it. Period. That's what happened.